My name is Eliza. I am 26 years old. I live in a small town near the mountains. I work as a hairdresser in a little salon on Main Street. I met Ryan at a friend's wedding. He was the groom's cousin. He was tall, friendly, and full of jokes. He smiled a lot and made everyone laugh. When he looked at me, I felt seen. He said I had a beautiful smile. No one had said that to me in a long time. We talked for hours that night. He told me about his job at a small office. He said he lived with his parents, but he wanted to move out. He said he was ready to start a serious life. I want a wife, he told me. Someone simple. Someone kind. I thought maybe that could be me. After the wedding, he called me every day. We met almost every evening after work. He brought me coffee, walked me home, and told me I was special. I've never met a girl like you, he said. I started to believe him. I started to imagine a future. Just 3 months later, he asked me to marry him. It felt fast, but I said yes. Everyone said we should wait. My mother said, "Eliza, take your time. You don't really know him." But I was happy. I thought love was enough. We had a small wedding in a local church. His family came. My family came. Everyone smiled for the pictures. But inside, I was nervous. I didn't know why. After the wedding, I moved into Ryan's house. He still lived with his parents. I didn't mind. I thought it was just for a while. But that while never ended. His mother, Teresa, was always watching me. His father didn't talk much. Ryan told me, "They just need time. You'll see." I tried my best. I woke up early. I made breakfast. I cleaned the kitchen, even if it was already clean. I offered to help Teresa cook, but she said, "I've been doing this my whole life. I don't need help now." Still, I smiled and stayed polite. After 2 months, Ryan changed. He didn't smile as much. He started coming home late. When I asked where he was, he said, "You ask too many questions." Sometimes I made dinner, but he didn't eat. He just said, "I'm not hungry," and went to the living room. One evening, Teresa said the soup I made was too salty. Ryan looked at me and said, "Can't you do anything right?" My face felt hot. I looked down and whispered, "I'm sorry." That night, I cried quietly in the bathroom. I didn't want anyone to hear me. Each day, things got worse. If something went wrong, it was my fault. If Ryan lost his keys, he blamed me. If his father forgot something, Teresa blamed me. "I never had this problem before you came," she said once. Ryan agreed. "Things were better before," he said. I felt like a stranger in the house. One day, I broke a glass in the kitchen. It slipped from my hand and fell. It made a loud crash. Teresa ran in and shouted, "What are you doing? Are you a child?" Ryan came too. He looked angry. "Just clean it up," he said. You always make a mess. I cleaned it while my hands shook. That night I asked Ryan, "Why are you always angry at me?" He said, "Because you ruin everything." I didn't know what to say. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. He walked out of the room. The next day, I went to work early. I didn't want to be at home. My boss, Clara, asked, "Eliza, are you okay?" I smiled and said, "Yes, just tired." But I wasn't okay. One weekend, Ryan and I were invited to a cousin's birthday. I wore a blue dress. I thought I looked nice. When Ryan saw me, he said, "Is that what you're wearing?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Try not to embarrass me." At the party, he smiled at others. He laughed with his cousin, but he didn't talk to me. People asked, "How's married life?" I smiled and said, "It's good." But I wanted to say, I feel small. I feel invisible. That night, he didn't even thank me for coming. He just went to sleep. One morning, I forgot to pack his lunch. He stormed into the room. "Do you even care about me?" he shouted. I said, "I'm sorry. I just forgot." He said, "You always forget. You don't think." He threw the empty lunch bag on the floor. I picked it up in silence. The next day, I made a perfect lunch. I packed his favorite sandwich, an apple, and a sweet note. I hoped it would make him smile. That evening, he didn't say anything. The note was still in the bag, untouched. I asked, "Did you like the lunch?" He said, "I didn't even look at it." I felt like I couldn't win. Later that week, Teresa said the laundry was done wrong. She held up a shirt and said, "Look at this. It's wrinkled. What do you even do all day?" Ryan looked at me. He didn't defend me. He just said, "She's not used to doing real work." I wanted to scream, but I just said, "I'm trying." He laughed. "You're always trying, Eliza, but nothing ever gets better." That night, I sat outside the house. The air was cool. The sky was gray. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I didn't feel like a wife. I felt like a mistake. I asked myself, why did I marry so fast? And for the first time, I whispered, maybe I made a big mistake. The next morning, I woke up early and made breakfast. Ryan didn't say good morning. He sat at the table and looked at his phone. I placed his food in front of him. He said, "This toast is too cold." I didn't answer. I just went back to the kitchen and made tea for myself. Teresa came in and saw some crumbs on the floor. "You don't know how to clean," she said. "My son never had this before. You're lazy." I cleaned the floor again, even though I had just cleaned it before cooking. No one said thank you. At work, I felt more tired every day. My hands hurt from doing so much at home. My feet hurt from standing in the salon all day. But I smiled for the customers. I cut hair and made people feel good. I said kind words, but inside, I felt empty. Clara, my boss, said, "Eliza, take a break." I said, "I'm okay." But I wasn't okay. When I came home that day, Ryan was already home. He was watching TV. "Did you get milk?" he asked. I had forgotten. He looked angry. "One simple thing. You can't even do that." I said, "I'll go now." He didn't say thank you. He just turned back to the TV. I walked to the store with heavy legs and a heavier heart. I told myself, "Don't cry in public." I came home with the milk. No one said a word to me. Later that night, I sat in the small bedroom. I looked at my phone. I had no messages. I missed my mother. I missed my old room. I missed peace. But I didn't want to call her. I didn't want her to worry. She already said this marriage was too fast. The next day, Teresa told me her friend was coming over. "Clean the living room better this time," she said. Last week, it was full of dust. I cleaned every corner. I even made cookies for her friend. But when the woman came, Teresa told her, "I do everything here. I don't let the young one touch my kitchen." I was standing right there. I looked at the floor and said nothing. That evening, Ryan said, "You don't make enough money. Maybe you should work more hours." I said, "I already work full days." He said, "Then get a better job. We need more." But he didn't even pay rent. We lived in his parents' house. He didn't cook. He didn't clean. One night I made his favorite dinner, chicken with rice. I put it on the table. He looked at it and said, "Again? Can't you try something new?" I said, "I thought you liked it." He didn't even taste it. He went to his room and shut the door. I sat alone at the table. Sometimes I dreamed of running away, just packing my things and leaving. But where would I go? My name wasn't on anything. Not the house. Not the bills. I had no savings. I had no plan. So I stayed. One Sunday morning, I wanted to go to church. I said, "Let's go together." Ryan said, "You can go if you want. I'm not wasting my time there." I went alone. It was quiet and warm inside. I sat at the back and closed my eyes. I didn't pray for anything big. I just asked for strength. I asked for peace. After church, I walked slowly back home. I didn't want to go inside. I wanted to stay out in the fresh air. When I walked into the kitchen, Teresa said, "Where were you?" "The floor is dirty again." I said, "I went to church." She said, "We all have work to do here. God won't help you clean this house." That evening, I called my sister. Her name is Julia. She is younger than me, but stronger. I said, "Can we talk?" She said, "Of course." I told her everything about Ryan, about Teresa, about feeling like I was nothing. She said, "Come stay with me." I said, "I can't. Not yet." The next day, I came home from work and found my clothes on the floor. My small closet was full of Teresa's old boxes. I said, "Where should I keep my things?" Teresa said, "This is my house. Keep your mess somewhere else." Ryan was watching. He didn't say anything. He never did. I started writing in a notebook at night, just a few lines each day. I wrote things like, "I am trying," or "I am not the problem." It helped a little. At least I had one place where my voice mattered. One Friday evening, Ryan came home drunk. He smelled like beer. He shouted at the door when his key didn't work right away. I opened the door. He looked at me and said, "You always forget to fix things. This house is falling apart." I said nothing. He walked past me and threw his bag on the floor. He went to bed without eating. I cleaned up his mess. I stood in the kitchen and held onto the counter. I felt my legs shake. I felt small. I whispered, "This is not love." That night, I couldn't sleep. I looked at the ceiling and asked, what happened to the girl who smiled at the wedding? That girl was full of hope, full of dreams. Now, I was full of silence. The next morning, Ryan didn't remember anything. He acted normal. "What's for breakfast?" he asked. I made toast and eggs. I didn't speak much. He didn't notice. One day at the salon, Clara said, "You don't laugh anymore." I said, "I'm just tired." She said, "You used to talk about baking and music. Now you just work and leave." I wanted to cry, but I smiled and said, "I'll be okay." That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked dark. My shoulders were low. I asked, "Is this who I am now?" I didn't have an answer. On Sunday, I saw a little girl in the park. She was flying a small red kite. She ran and laughed. Her mother clapped and smiled. I watched them for a long time. I thought, one day, I want to be that mother. But not like this. Not in this house. Not in this kind of marriage. Later that day, Teresa blamed me for a missing towel. "You always move things. I can't find anything since you came here." I said, "I didn't touch it." She said, "Then who did? The wind?" Ryan walked in and said, "Just give her some space, Mom." For the first time, he spoke up, but it was short. He went back to his phone. Teresa shook her head and left the room. That night, I sat in the bedroom with my notebook. I wrote, "I don't want to feel like this next year, or next month, or tomorrow." I closed the book and stared out the window. The moon was full. The sky was clear. And for the first time, I asked myself a serious question. What if I leave? Not forever. Not yet. But for a few days. Just to breathe. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I didn't take much. Just some clothes, my notebook, and a photo of me and Julia from when we were young. I left a short note for Ryan. I need a few days. I'll be with my sister. I took the bus to Julia's apartment. She opened the door and hugged me tight. She didn't ask too many questions. She just said, "I'm glad you came." Her apartment was small, but it felt warm. There were flowers on the table and music playing softly. We sat on the couch and talked for hours. I told her everything. She listened. She didn't judge me. That night, I slept on her couch. I felt safe for the first time in months. In the morning, I helped her make pancakes. We laughed a little. It felt strange but good, like I was waking up after a long sleep. Julia said, "You don't have to go back if you don't want to." I didn't know what to say. I still had hope that maybe Ryan would change. Maybe things would get better. But I also knew the truth. He didn't care. He never really tried. That afternoon, Ryan called. I didn't answer. He sent one message. "When are you coming back?" "No. Are you okay?" "No, I'm sorry." I didn't reply. 3 days passed. I rested. I ate well. I even helped Julia clean her apartment. One morning, she left a note on the table before work. It said, "You are stronger than you think." I stared at those words for a long time. Later that day, I opened my notebook and wrote, "I don't want to be blamed anymore. I want peace. I want respect." That evening, I called my mother. Her voice was warm. "Eliza, I've been thinking about you every day," she said. I told her everything. I cried on the phone. She cried too. She said, "You can come home. Always." I didn't know what to do. Julia's place was small. My mother's house was far away. But anywhere felt better than that house with Ryan and Teresa. The next morning, Ryan showed up at Julia's door. He looked tired. "We need to talk," he said. Julia stepped between us. "Only if she wants to," she said firmly. I nodded slowly. We sat on the front steps. He said, "You should have told me before leaving." I said, "I tried, but you never listened." He looked away. "Mom says you were always rude to her." I looked straight at him. I was quiet, not rude. I was tired of being blamed for everything. He didn't speak. I said, "You never stood up for me, not once. You let them treat me like a stranger." He sighed. "Maybe." I didn't know what to do. I waited. I wanted to hear something real, something kind. But all he said was, "So, are you coming back or not?" That was my answer. "No," I said. "I need something better than this. I need to feel like I matter." He looked surprised. "You're just leaving." "I'm choosing myself," I said quietly. He stood up. "Fine. Do what you want." And then he left. Julia came outside and hugged me. "I'm proud of you," she said. That night, I called my mother again. I asked if I could stay with her for a while. She said, "Of course. Come home." I moved into her house 2 days later. My old room was still there. The same soft bed, the same little desk near the window. I cried when I walked in, not because I was sad, but because I felt free. I started working at a new salon near my mother's home. The people were kind. The owner, Mrs. Wilson, said, "We're happy to have you here." I smiled for real that day. Each week, I felt more like myself. I started reading again. I baked cookies with my mother. I wrote more in my notebook. One evening, I sat by the window and looked at the stars. I remembered the nights I cried in silence. I remembered the words Ryan used to say. "You ruin everything. You don't do anything right." And now, I knew something true. It wasn't me. I wasn't the problem. He was. That house, that life. It was full of blame, not love. I wanted to love again one day, but not fast, not without care. I wanted someone who would hear me, see me, and stand beside me. A few months later, I received divorce papers. Ryan sent them without saying a word. I signed them. I felt no pain, just peace. On the last page, I wrote a note to myself. You survived. You are enough. Now, every morning, I wake up and stretch in my own space. I drink tea with my mother. I walk to work with music in my ears. I smile more. I laugh more. I don't have everything figured out, but I have myself. And that is a strong beginning. Sometimes customers at the salon say, "You look happy." I say,